your host, Effie Pilarino, and today I have the pleasure to be with Marianne Haahr from Copenhagen. Hello, Marianne.
Hello, Effie.
We are connecting again. We've never met physically, right? So we've always connected electronically, and we will continue, I guess, doing that for a while. Marianne is the director of the Green Digital Finance Alliance. I have had the pleasure to speak with her several times, covering the different reports and the focus areas that they have been endeavoring in. Their main focus, as she will explain, is around green finance and more conservation finance, and they've just come out with a new report. So we want to discuss all these points. So Marianne, please tell us a few words about the Green Digital Alliance, Finance Alliance, where it's coming from and what its mission is.
Thanks a lot, and thanks for having us, Effie. It's actually a not-for-profit incorporated in Geneva in Switzerland. We were launched in 2017 in Davos at the WEF meeting, and we were launched as a public-private partnership between the UN Environment Programme and Ant Financial Services. And at that point in time, the big why was really to say, well, finance is digitizing faster than any other sector of society. But it's a financial system that is very misaligned to the desires of citizens and politicians of turning green. So we have the Paris Agreement on the one hand, and then we have a bond market where only 2% of the bonds are green. So the big why is to say, now that we're digitizing, why don't we plug green into this digitization process so that we gear the regulation, the financial service instruments, both at capital market and at retail level, to really service the green agenda. So that's the big why. And we are an independent not-for-profit, so we work mainly on policy dialogue, on helping policymakers and regulators understand what is the current practices of green digital finance at market level. What are the barriers that these solutions run into, and how can regulation and policy incentivize more green digital finance to scale? And then we do demonstration projects. It's a very early stage market, green digital finance. There are very few large-scale practices out there. So we try to bring partners together to experiment, to demonstrate what is possible, and then inspire other actors to copy those practices.
Thank you, Marianne. And we've been talking about the focus of the Alliance in conservation finance, and a study that you did around a few fintechs that are actually operating in that area, which is a very nascent area. Can you tell us a few words about that study and its focus?
Yeah, most certainly. So we've been very focused on climate finance and digitization of climate finance, and now we are moving much more into conservation finance. So basically unlocking finance into nature. And a first step in understanding where can we add most value, we did a landscaping of Fintech for biodiversity. What does the supply side look like? So we mapped out 60 Fintechs and we grouped them in terms of what are the technologies they're powered by, what types of conservation finance do they unlock? And sort of one insight is that if you compare the conservation finance community to the global fintech community, then many more of them are leveraging blockchain technology as one sort of strategic insight. And that's because blockchain technology brings some very unique capabilities that conservation finance is missing, because nature is in many ways difficult to invest in because of the fact that it's in many places a public good. But when you use blockchain, you can actually fractionalize the ownership into, for instance, a forest area. So you can offer you, Effie, for example, to invest via a digital wallet just into the planting of one tree, and you can send your cryptocurrency directly and you can get direct information about the tree, that it's planted, that it's growing, that it's having positive biodiversity impacts. So we're seeing quite a lot of these fintech solutions in the conservation space, leveraging blockchain to offer through digital wallets quite a lot of citizens to invest in, for instance, tree planting.
Nice. And now that you say tree planting, your recent report, which is titled Tech for Trees, and if I understand correctly, is a study that was done within the ant forest ecosystem, is also looking at another potential application around planting trees and biodiversity. What was the mission, the question that you were trying to answer, and what were the results of this study?
Yeah, so what we wanted to learn was we have 500 million users on the Ant Forest app, which is an application on the Alipay wallet, where people get real-time feedback on their carbon footprint, and then they can plant trees in China. So we asked ourselves the question together with two partners, so the Kufi University in Beijing and the CAFI Trust Fund under the Paris Agreement. Are there any appetite among these users to also use the green energy points they get on the mobile wallet to invest in tree planting very far from home in the second largest rainforest in Central Africa? That was what we wanted to learn. And we found that actually 1/5, a bit more than 1/5 of the users are very positive and would like the Ant Forest application to offer them to also invest into rainforest far from home. And the reason that it's important for us is because if you plant a tree in the tropics compared to planting it in desert areas in China, for instance, you have multiple, many more times positive impact on carbon capture, because trees grow much faster in the tropics. And you also have much more biodiversity impact in terms of the biomass created. So that is why. And then the second reason is that currently today, most of the financing going into the rainforests or forest preservation is public funding. And most of climate finance is either public funding or it's big industries. But we also want to make it accessible to citizens, because we believe that citizens actually care about nature and actually wants to create a more safe world than what we experience now.
Very interesting. I mean, from the outside, as I hear this is a little bit like, do you want to invest outside your country, like we would think of in stock markets, you know, Europeans investing in other stock markets or Americans investing in other stock markets. And if we think of nature as a resource that we should be investing in, it's kind of the same principle. You're looking at whether there's appetite to do so in international markets, where you might get a higher return in the big picture. It's very interesting. Of course, we will share all the links for our audience so they can check out these reports and the details. One item I wanted to also ask you about is about the Central African Forest Initiative that has been involved in this study. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yeah, it's a large trust fund set up under the Paris Agreement. So it's set up to compensate states. So it's a big outcome payment mechanism. Actually, it's set up to pay states for keeping trees in the ground. So it's mainly focusing on the Central African rainforest. And the reason it's set up and the reason why we are working with them is that these countries find it much more difficult to access climate negotiated funds than, for instance, the Amazon rainforest, because of the fact that these countries are poorer, they have poorer governance, they can't really show historical data on deforestation rates, so they have a difficult time proving that they're actually keeping the trees in the ground. So CAFI works with them to help them strengthen that governance, to count the trees, measure the trees, and then they make outcome payments. They're going to make the largest outcome payment this year to Gabon for having kept a large amount of trees in the ground and thereby harvested carbon. But they're very interested in innovating the fund and also in creating a citizen investing window. So they also want to invite more than states. Now it's mainly Norway and Germany investing into it, but for citizens also to have a relation to the rainforest and to invest in it. Because also a lot of the degradation of the rainforest is of course us as consumers, that we demand wood products. So if you are an investor into a forest, you probably have a bigger incentive to preserve it and to keep the value up of it.
Of the natural resource. And again, are you seeing the potential or even the actual adoption of distributed ledger or blockchain technology in all these different facets that you are involved in because of the traceability and the provenance attributes that, that the ledger offers?
Well, the ledger offer, it has a lot of potential, and in the landscaping we did, it was more than 50% of the solutions that are actually built on blockchain technology, but very few of them are scaled. And quite a lot of that is due to regulatory uncertainty in a number of these jurisdictions, that it's not clear the regulatory status of crypto assets. So we see it's still at the level of potential. We haven't seen a massive scale up, but we can see quite a big supply of it. And in the Central African rainforest, the obvious use case is there. If you start to invest citizen money into rainforest in terms of being able to prove the impact that the trees have actually been planted, so the traceability of that impact directly to the wallet of the user would be an obvious use case. But we're not seeing much scaling of the technologies or the applications that are powered by blockchain.
And on that note, I'd like to close, first of all, acknowledging that this is the week where we're celebrating the 50th anniversary of the Earth Day as an official celebration, and to share a thought with you and our audience, which is around money. I mean, currently our monetary system is fiat. It's not backed by any natural resources. And most people know that it was the dollar and several other of the main reserve currencies were backed by gold some 50 years ago. And maybe we might partially go back to that, but imagine a world where we actually switch to money that's backed by natural resources, like trees or some particular wood or something like that. Do you think that could be a possibility?
I think you're very right. That could be a possibility. And I think that's exactly what Fintech brings to the space. We saw in Australia that they issued their bio token last year, or trialed it, which is basically a token backed by nature. And they want to make that investable by citizens. That was a CBA trial. So I think that is a future that is very likely, because nature, as you said, it's a very stable asset. It doesn't fluctuate with financial markets. It just stays with the same value. So it would be a very good match to a stable coin type system.
Very nice. Thank you very much, Marianne, for sharing your insights with us.